What's up and welcome to Idle Insights, a show where each week I, Treavor Bettis, talk to interesting people about idle champions and Dungeons and Dragons. And with me returning this week is Vee Mus'e.
Hello. And Hemingway.
Hello. And Hemingway. Look at the Hemingway.
I mean, he's clingy right now, so we're gonna have a half a guest joining us.
Oh, the cat is freaking adorable.
Anyways. And we're off already.
Yes. Once again, you get a peek into what it's like to be in a meeting with Vee and I. How are you doing today, Vee?
I'm doing the things, keeping busy.
Exactly. And yeah, we're here to talk about. Well, first off, top show, we may as well talk about the fact that Nika's got a new skin in Idle Champions. Yes. Why don't you tell folks about that?
Yeah, so Nika has a new skin. It's the Barovia Visitor Voronika skin, and I am super excited about that one. It's basically based off of one of the episodes where Nika's like, oh, they're back in Barovia. Let me just go over there and give them some things to help. Because she was all about the fact that they were going to go and do some things to Strahd. She's like, yes, this I can get behind.
I know it is. Black Society is a majoritively serious show. It's got dark themes and everything like that. But I will say that episode in my head, I'm like, this is like when Santa Claus showed up in Narnia. Like Nika just pulled out the red bag, and for you get a bow.
And you get that. And they were just, well, it was also a fun connection because that's sort of how we justify Tatiana and Desmond having the cool things they got from Idle Champions Presents
Court of
the Raven Queen. So yeah, we kind of use that as the, oh yeah, by the way. But yeah, it was really funny. And they were so untrusting of the basket of goodies she brought for them to eat, knowing full well they were probably hungry, But no, it was a fun episode. It really was. So because that was one of the more memorable episodes, I wanted to kind of have a skin that nodded to it. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
The skin is freaking cool as hell too.
Love it. I'm loving the fact that we have Whittle's skin, latest skin. And then we have Fenn's skin and my skin. It looks like the three of us could all get together and have tea in Barovia and totally be like, ding dong, Strahd is gone.
Team Barovia is the best campaign name I've ever heard.
Yeah. So that was fun to do, for sure.
That's fantastic. But what one of the things that I wanted to kind of talk about mainly in this episode was DMing.
What's that?
I know. What I mean, it's like time. What is time? Who knows?
I don't.
Not me.
It's Puddle. He's a mushy puddle.
So I wanted to ask, when did you start DMing games?
I started DMing games. God, we are back to what is time? Probably about 5 years ago in earnest.
Okay.
Yeah, about 5 years ago. And it was one of those things where I didn't want to. Everyone kept saying, you should DM, you're a great player, you should DM, et cetera, et cetera. I was just like, I don't want to, I am not confident enough, et cetera, et cetera. And then I finally was given the opportunity of hey, if you DM, you can come to a castle in England.
That is pretty cool.
I was like, crap, I really like England and those castles are pretty freaking awesome. So I got the chutzpah pulled together and I started DMing ahead of time. And then I did my first official professional DMing as a one-shot DM for D&D in a castle.
That's pretty cool.
And yeah, it was amazing. And the funny thing was, as soon as I started doing it, that's when I realized I'm like, okay. So getting ready to DM is basically pulling together plans I would do for when I was teaching for my students and getting ready to tell stories together and things like that. I was like, wow, I really had that mental block up when it didn't need to be there at all. And now it's just I'm like, yeah, I can DM.
Oh boy. No, that's I never thought about it like that before, though. I mean, I've never been a teacher, so it's obvious that I wouldn't. But yeah, I can see that being pretty similar. I do kind of get upset at my players sometimes, like a teacher.
That wasn't the connection I was going for. This was more creative writing process stuff.
Yeah. So what would you say your DM style is?
I'm very much a storyteller. So I love to build the setting itself and build the NPCs and filter those out to the players and build on what they start adding to the story.
Mm-hmm.
Because I love shaping and growing everything around what the players start connecting and doing and realizing in this story that we're creating together.
Mm-hmm.
That's really my style. And I am known for doing voices, shaka. Um,
Oh my gosh, the voices you've done at the tables I've been at with you are just incredible.
oh my God, I am such a mimic. I have always been an absolute mimic. And the whole voice thing, it wasn't even related to being a DM. It was the fact that I was a theater kid in high school.
Mm,
I loved doing stuff like that. And, just living in various places and having to sort of adapt to the different accents definitely came into play too. Um, Plus, I think it's genetic because I have a cousin who's a voice actor, and he and I both like when the two of us get, no, it's not.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
No, the storytelling way of DMing is definitely the one that I fall into as well.
Mhm.
There's sometimes where I will hear people talking about games and the way that they do stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute, what that? Oh, okay, we're different goals there.
Mhm.
Okay, got it. Okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool, cool, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm more like, okay, here is the pretty little sandbox I've just built, twists
Hmm.
and turns. I want to see what you do with it.
Yeah.
Like, I love, like, I'll have like points. I'm like, I want them to, eventually meet this character or do this type of encounter and everything like that. But it's all like a list of bullet points and sort of
Hmm.
like what those would be appropriate for type of things,
Yeah.
like, heavy role play, heavy combat. But I just kind of let them wander and do their thing. I'm like, oh, this bullet point will fit nicely here.
I had a session like literally last night where I almost didn't prep anything because
Mhm.
it was a crossroads episode where it's just like, okay, you all tell me where the story's gonna go next so I know what
Yeah.
to write. You could
Yeah.
go anywhere in the multiverse right now. I'm not gonna pretend to prep like I know what you're gonna do.
I mean, it's not that I don't prep. A lot of my prep is way in advance. So I'm living in that world
Yeah.
and I'm creating that world and everything like that long before I actually start presenting it to people to work within. And then it's just sort of like quick reviews. I'll take like about an hour and a half before a session and just sort of refresh my memory, look over stat blocks, etc.,
Hmm.
tweak anything that I've created. Because I have a twisted little mind. um, but things like that is what I'll do. It's less let me plot out the entire session. It's more like, okay, let's just make sure I'm kind of ready for whatever might come next.
Yeah.
And take down notes from what they had pulled together from the last one or things they like locked onto. It's funny. I play with a group every Saturday. We call ourselves the Chaos Monkeys. And
It's a great name.
for very good reasons. And we've actually been playing since my birthday party 3 years ago.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, so we've kind of been cycling through different DMs. And then when I was DMing my BB's place,
Mhm.
which I got to do here once upon a time.
Mhm. I was in that game. That was a great game.
Yes, you were there. So I was running my BB's place campaign, and I got it to the point where James Introcaso, he was like pulling out the red yarn and the notes and everything like that on the back
Wait
wall
a minute. I know this.
over this one NPC, and I'm sitting there and I'm laughing internally. I'm like, dude, it's just this NPC. There's nothing there. But seeing him get so fixated on, like, kind of like I would like drop little Easter eggs that he would be like, yeah, let's go. I'm like, okay. But it's moments like that that I feed off of. It's like, little things that they are like, ooh, but wait. It's like, oh, look at the shiny and seeing what they want to do with
Hmm.
the shiny. I'm like, okay, we can kind of adjust things and see where this goes.
Hmm.
It's fun to play off of that one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you are gonna go about starting a campaign, like you're the DM, you're getting ready to start this up, where do
Mhm.
you start with the prep?
I start with the world. I always start with the setting, quite frankly. I have, well, setting and the main component,
Hmm.
personality wise. So like with BB's place, I had BB already fleshed out as a person character type of thing. But then I needed to get her place kind of figured out. And
Hmm.
that's where I started like, okay, this is what it's going to look like. Well, if it looks like this, who would be here NPC wise? Okay, great. What about, objects that are going to be in these different areas of this location? And well, how would things interact together? And it's kind of like painting a Bob Ross picture where you start off like with this blank canvas and you just start putting in these little elements. And by the
We're just gonna
time
put a
it's
little
done, you
bush
step
right
back
there.
and yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I give myself a key character and use sort of how they function, their thought process, the things that drive them to help shape what they would be like in their setting.
And
And
when
I'm
you're doing that, like, are you writing this down, or are you just kind of forming this in your head as like this is how the character feels? Ah, okay, there you go.
write it down. Yeah,
That's a
I write it. This
cool
this is
notebook.
actually this is the Koshmar one.
That's such a cool note. Did you get that from Koshmar? Jeez.
No, but that's why I'm like, oh, this fits for Koshmar.
That is, yeah, like
So no,
I'm just born
yeah.
with like a Lundstrom, like.
I have the worst handwriting, but for some reason I do better if I sit there with a pencil and notepad and just jot down my ideas as I'm thinking about it, because I find half
Mhm.
the time if I come to sit at a computer and try and make a formal document, I start to lose the threads that I'm pulling.
I get that.
So I'll do an initial jot down and then I go to my computer and I start plotting things out, usually through Trello, quite frankly. I'll get a board set up for the campaign I'm trying to build and use that as a means to like get the setting and the NPCs and
Mhm.
the encounters and the interactions I want to have going. But yeah, it's very organic in the beginning, and then I get more technical as I get closer and closer to the game itself.
So with the world builder, like, do you often use like pre-established settings, or do you like homebrewing your own stuff?
I very much love building my own worlds.
Oh.
Yeah. I have run campaigns, but I always go on a tangent. I just go somewhere else.
Mhm.
Like even when I was doing Tales of the Old Margrave for Cobalt Press a few years back, we were in the Margrave Forest and we were doing things with certain points in the Margrave book. I'm pointing to the book behind me. You can see it.
Yeah,
Um,
got all of Margrave right behind me.
the book back there. So I was using elements from that campaign. Like I pulled different settings and everything like that, but then I made them my own. And then I actually created a particular place in the Margrave
Mm.
just for my campaign, the Grove of Eternal Autumn. And
Ooh.
yeah. And it was this really cool place where the Elseed live and they're a druid group and they take care of the earth, et cetera, et cetera. And it's basically like a land of always harvest,
Mhm.
is sort of what I did with it. But it was connected to the balance of other elements that were in the Margrave Forest. So it's just my brain likes to take kind of what is either already there and spin it, or I'll just come up with something new in itself entirely, like I did with BB's Place. BB's
Yeah.
Place, I mean, quite frankly, that is a um, little layer that BB can plain skip
Mhm.
around and hop type of thing. And so that's technically in Louisiana, which is always fun to play with. You're like, where are we? And then it's like you get into like the fun, like this what?
I mean, just from firsthand experience playing that place, I loved it because that is one of those times that as a player I could tell that this is a place the DM loves. Like you
Oh
can
yeah.
tell the love and care that was put into it. You have it completely fleshed out in your head what it looks like and everything like
Hmm.
that. I feel like every DM needs at least one of those locations
Oh
that
yeah.
can just show up anywhere.
Yeah. That's just it. Like BB has her own lore. She has her stories. She's gone and she's played in other games and she does other
Hmm.
things. And she's got some very interesting connections. And what's funny is I have a couple other characters that connect to BB as
Hmm.
well. Like niece, cousin, sister type of situation. So that's been fun. But Koshmar has been a very similar thing as it has been to BB's Place. Koshmar itself doesn't technically exist on the map anywhere. But it is Koshmar before it became a domain, was in the Mus'e Isles. So
That's
it's just its own
learning
little
that
island.
learning that was
Yeah.
actually pretty wild because I remember in the first episode being like, okay, where is this place? Have I heard of
Hmm.
this place before? And then yeah, later hearing it just kind of like offhandedly dropped that it was in the Moon Jails. I'm like, what?
Yeah. No, that was something where when B Dave and I were talking about the concept of getting a domain pulled together. He's like, you create it because it's yours. You create it, you start, you go, give me the before, give me the after, and I'll work with it.
Oh
I'm like,
God,
cool.
that's fantastic.
Um, So, you know, it's one of those things factoring in elements of like, okay, well, then if we have Desmond's family in there and we're known that they have lycanthropy, you know, Mus'e Isles have a lot of werewolf and stuff lore built into it. I'm like, and I also need it to be in a place where it's not in a physically landlocked area for this place to completely disappear off the map because it's been pulled into the dread domains. So that's why I went with the Mus'e Isles.
I love that. I do love that for viewers, the cat just transformed into another cat.
This is Rory.
I hadn't seen Hemingway for a little bit, and then Rory pops up.
My cat's a shapeshifter. Speaking of shapeshifters.
Oh man, I love it.
Yeah, so you know, Koshmar is a brand new place. And it's something where, I mean, God, I had Pinterest boards of inspirations of what it would look like when it was before everything went to hell, you know, in transition when Nika was in ghost form and not there anymore, but also not in the dread domain. And then what it's like now that it is a dread domain. And now that I'm getting ready to turn Koshmar into a campaign itself, you know, I'm sitting there and I am fleshing out Koshmar even more so. You know, people know that there's the temple and that there's the center of the city. And then there's also this hunting lodge off by a lake in the mountains. But I'm taking those elements and more is being built around it just to kind of make it something cool because I'm going to have fun running this for the Chaos Monkey group I just mentioned. I'm going to start running this for them because we've been doing a whole Ravenloft campaign for the past 3 years. Yeah. So like, yeah, let's jump into Koshmar and I'm going to take on his team again, but it's also going to be a chance to run it ahead of time because I am planning on doing this at D&D in a castle.
Ooh, we're going to put a pin in that one because I want to come back to that one. But
sure.
One of the other things I wanted to ask though about when you're getting ready to run a campaign, when it comes to the plot, how far out are you plotting before you start that first game?
I have beginning point, end point, some things that could happen in the middle. The rest is open.
Yeah.
Is really how I do it.
That sounds very similar to mine, where I'm just like, there's no way I'm gonna know which path these guys are gonna take.
And that's just it. It's like, you know, you can plan it out as much as possible. But what I learned early on is like, yes, you can have everything down to the letter of like, this is what is gonna happen in this campaign. And then they're like, oh, but what if we go completely this concept? And that concept was something you couldn't even anticipate. Like, you know, I had what was supposed to be an evil NPC at BB's place, this doppelganger, and played the game, and the players basically converted the guy. So not expecting that.
Oh, I love that.
Dr. B.
Oh,
his character. His character was supposed to fight a freaking keg mimic, and it became his pet.
Of course he did. That is 100% on brand.
He trained this keg mimic to be his companion.
I just imagine this little keg with a tongue coming out. Just like a dog running around.
Yeah. And that's what it was. It was like, it walks around like a bulldog. Its name is Ginny, and its tag is 8675309.
Again, very on brand for him. Yeah, no, when it comes to like planning stuff out, the thing that I've always said is you can plot to a point, but as soon as you start writing what your players are gonna do, you're outlining a book. You're no longer writing a game, you're outlining a book.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I've learned just to be like, okay, let's see if this time we can have them encounter these 3 things for reasons, and I'll figure out the reasons off the cuff, quite frankly, more often than not.
I also just like letting my players be full chaos monkeys. I mean, last night I gave my player I rolled random treasure because I was like, I'm so bad at giving out loot, so you know what, we're gonna have some fun. You just completed a big thing, we're gonna roll some treasure. One of my players got a ring of 3 wishes, and I was like, you know what, yeah, let's go with that. I want to see what kind of chaos you did.
Let's just do it. I mean, quite frankly, I know I'm going to be bringing Vault of Magic with me to these games, just because there's so much cool stuff in that book. Not because I put stuff in it, but because literally there have been some fantastic items put in that. And it's honestly, it's like one of those things. It's like, well, I mean, I could easily just go through and start numbering everything and have people roll a percentile and be like, okay, so this is what you get from the weapons, this is what you get from that,
Mhm.
and just have fun with it that way.
I love
But no, I
randomness.
definitely like pulling different and offbeat things that aren't as predictable.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I got a cloak of protection. Yay. Um Granted, those things are awesome. My little star druid, she's got one of those, and hot damn.
That's fair. That's fair.
Mhm, mhm.
Well, actually, speaking of the players and the characters, do you often intertwine their backstories with plot and whatnot? How do you go about doing that?
I Again, it's sort of feeding off seeing what they do and how they react. Like when I was doing the last air, Michael Kritz, he had this character named Gervain, who was a wanderer, ranger or fighter. Trying to remember that one. But he had an issue with his character, not Michael, had this issue with accepting that he was someone who could have impact, who could make a difference, who did have a power to him. And so I basically took him and pitted him up against Baba Yaga. Um,
Ooh.
Not in battle. It was a lot of back and forth conversations, and he would say things and I would use her as the impetus to kind of needle him and make him grow and develop as the character, not Michael. Make sure that's clear, to how this character start to think. And Gervain went from being far less reactive to more thoughtful in how he was going to do things and take on things, and became a really cool I want to say person, quite frankly, because of how developed Michael got this character, became this really cool person at the very end. Um, this character that did find their voice, that did find a means to interact and to stand up for his group, and to realize that, okay, not everything is as it seems, but this could be to my advantage, as opposed to
Hmm.
trying to fight it all the time.
That's
So
cool. No,
yeah,
that's really neat. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I think one of my favorite things a player can tell me at the beginning of a campaign is like, "Hey, I don't really know what to do for backstory. Just do whatever you want." And I'm like,
Mhm. Oh, my little star druid, she purposely has amnesia
Mhm.
because I just want to see what's going to happen with it. And
Oh,
there's
I
stuff
love
coming
it.
up about her. I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. I like that. So yeah, no, I definitely like doing stuff like that. I also like seeing how, when people become so invested with their characters, like there's this experimental lab in BB's basement now because of Tamron. Tamron likes to make things explode after meeting the exploding toads at BB's place. So like literally it's now canon that BB has given Tamron, off in the back, very far back basement corner, a laboratory so she can figure out her experiments and make things explode and nothing happens to the rest of the house, that type of thing. So I love incorporating what the characters kind of bring into the story and make them feel a part of it,
Yeah.
especially in the long run.
Yeah. No, that in any time that I can find a way to tie a character's backstory into the main plot, I love those moments too where they like the player is almost just like, oh wait, it's me.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
always
no, it's
fun.
definitely been fun, especially like when I've run the same setting for different players and everything like that, and I'll
Hmm.
bring the other person's character in as a quick little cameo.
Yeah.
So Tamron has met other people who have played at BB's place, even though Tamron, the person who has Tamron and plays Tamron, may not necessarily have been there. Quick little drive-by comments that I know my friend Iris would have been saying. So it's fun to be able to do little things like that. Um, there's even this lovely little goblin named Blessed, who's become the VIP bartender. And the player was someone who came in for a one shot, and I just loved the way he played this little goblin. That I was like, Blessed has to stay. There's no way Blessed cannot be part of this campaign in one way or another. So yeah, it's sort of like, that's been the funny thing about BB's place. Everyone stays and becomes a new employee. I've seen this. Dang.
My players, the campaign that I've mainly been running at home for the last few years, they have this weird goal. The first thing they did in the campaign was they essentially started a tavern. And
Hmm.
so now their whole goal is to franchise, and they're trying to do so across the multiverse now,
Next.
where they're just like, I feel like this
Oh,
plane needs to find spirits.
fun.
And
That's fun.
and so, but the thing is though, is that anytime like they completely overpower an enemy, they're like put their sword
Mhm.
at their throat and like, are you good at cooking? How's your bartending? They're like, do you want a job? Like they got attacked by like this half-man horse demon, and they completely obliterate him. And they're just like, "Hey, you ever thought about working at a tavern?" So now they got this horse demon as a cook.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's amazing. I love it. I'm here for this. Yes.
So again, you never know what the players are gonna do.
No,
Um,
no. And I love it. Like I feed off of that, quite
oh
frankly.
yeah,
I'm like, please give me that. Give me that juicy
give
bit
me that
of
good
tidbits.
chaos.
Yeah.
So how long do your campaigns normally run for?
Normally they tend to be smaller, more bite-sized. I think
Mm,
the longest I've done is well, no, I take that back. Last Dare was 2 seasons.
mm.
I think that was almost like 30 episodes for the
Oh
Last
wow.
Dare. Yeah, so that was a long one. But it, BB's Place could arguably be a long time running campaign with special guests each time. Yeah.
It's like the
So it's
70s like special event episode where it's just like
kind
joining
of
BB's Place tonight is.
yep. Yep. Yeah, kind of like that. And then just other things have been, 4 2 smaller little bite-sized sessions. And that's more because of like time
Mm,
on my end.
mm.
It's like I can handle doing this one, yes. But yeah, it's like I ran this little Glimcheck Academy thing, which I created for younger players, and did, I think it was 4 sessions worth. And that was a lot of fun. Kind of teaching little ones how to figure out how to play the game and
I
what
love
the
doing
stats
that.
are. And yeah, it was really a lot of fun. I enjoyed that one too.
I made sure to plant that seed early for my nephews. I got them
Hmm.
started on this game called Hero Kids, which took the mechanics of D&D and just boiled it down to
Hmm.
a couple D6s.
Oh,
And
that's
and so we
good.
we played a game, and they made, oh my god, this kid, I'm like, you get to name your character. They picked out their ones, and my nephew picked a hunter, and I was like, what, you get to pick their name. What's their name? And he
Yeah.
thinks real hard, and he goes, Thunder Lightning Tornado.
So Tabaxi.
And I was like, you know what? We're gonna call you Tilt.
That's adorable. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, that's so precious.
yeah, and
Okay.
my wife Tara was playing with them to kind of help them along. She ended up
Hmm.
like essentially playing their babysitter. So she had like
I'm
2
here for
little kid
this.
adventurers walking around with her. It
Uh-huh.
was adorable.
That's so sweet though. Oh my gosh. If you have a chance to run games for kids, do it, because it is amazing the way they think and what they do. And quite frankly, I think it made me a better DM too, because you're like
Yes.
off the cuff thinking.
Those are
It
the
really
true
enhances that.
chaotic monkeys.
They are, and they're adorable. I mean, the one kid because it was like sort of like a session 0, the first one, and the kids were learning how to roll and figure out how to use their weapons and everything like that. And so I had it where they had like this archery area. So they
Mm,
could either shoot their spells or shoot their bow and arrows
yeah.
at the, targets. And this one little kid was playing a wizard, obliterated the target. Was it a wizard? I forgot what they were. But then it came up, it's like, hey, could we use menu to fix the target so that they can keep practicing?
That's cool. It's like,
Like,
you're getting
yeah.
it now. You see it. That's
And then in
fantastic.
the same session, they had to fight these giant moths, and one of the kids could create light. And so they're like, could I make that thing over there glow? And would the moths go there instead of coming for us? And then could we like surprise attack them? I was like, how could you say no to that? Because it
Right?
was such a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the kids are fit. They also will completely surprise you with like what they do and don't get upset about, because like
Hmm.
I was running a game for some kids, and there was a cursed sword, and I thought the kid was gonna get really mad because he picked it up and you can't let go of the sword. As soon as you pick it
No.
up, you can't let it go. And
Oh
he was
no.
like, yes. That is awesome. I'm like, it is. He goes, I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna run straight into every fight. They can't knock my sword out. I'm like, this kid's fantastic. And he did. He
Yes.
just ran sword first and
Yep.
everything.
And I will say, like, give kids familiars because they will do anything for those familiars.
Oh
They
my
will
God.
die for them.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. Doesn't matter what the class is, give them a freaking familiar. Like, just let them have it.
Mm-hmm.
It's adorable.
Going back to something you said at the beginning of the show, talking about D&D in a castle. Tell me about that. I mean, I feel like it is self-explanatory, but like, what is D&D in a castle?
D&D in a castle is this destination trip where basically you are in this immersive, you play D&D all day, all night. Well, not all night. Well, maybe all night. For like 3 days with a DM and a table of other players. So you won't know the players going into it because, you know, it's other people coming in and, you know, purchasing their seats and everything like that. But it's in this beautiful castle, Lumley Castle up in Newcastle. And it's just, you walk into this place and it's like, oh, okay, this is a castle. It's got like this gorgeous stonework and this little open courtyard in the middle. And oh my God, there's this library bar that I could just live there.
There's a what?
A library bar.
I didn't know that was allowed.
It's like red velvet and all these old books lining the walls. Yeah, it's stunning. So it's just this gathering of people who just have a love for playing games together, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And just, you know, exploring and having fun and just creating these memories through gameplay is really what it is.
That's fantastic. I mean, just the name in itself, it like I said, it sounds self-explanatory and it just sounds cool. And it is cool.
It really is. It's so much happening in those 3 days. And it's sort of like camp for adults in that respect. It's kind of like going to summer camp. But at least you get to sleep in a bed and there's running water in the bathrooms.
As a former Boy Scout, that sounds lovely.
Yeah, there's something to be said for no tents involved.
Yeah, yeah. If they're like D&D in a tent, no.
D&D in a cabana.
Now that
could be fun.
Oh boy. Yeah, I also hear that there's a cat that lives in the castle that everybody loves.
I think the cat came after I had been there my first year. And then, like, you know, the world at large happened and the whole castle stuff wasn't happening quite like it was before. So I think the cat came into the picture after my first time there. So I'm looking forward to going back this summer, and that cat will definitely be on my list of things of creatures to meet. Yes.
Via's like, I will make a friend.
I will make a friend of Penelope.
Is the cat's name Penelope?
Yeah, I believe so.
That's my cat's name. Oh my God.
Is it was it? I want to say it was Penelope, unless I'm thinking of your cat.
Maybe. Who
it's
knows?
An adorable name, and it's this little tuxedo.
Oh,
yeah.
Everyone go there just to see the cat.
See the cat, say hi to the players, and yeah.
So what did you find anything that was different about running the game for D&D in a castle versus just normally running a game?
My first time there, I didn't, because I was there as the one-shot DM. So basically what they do is they have someone who runs one-shots to kind of give the other DMs a break during the day, so people can kind of have some off time, but if they want to keep playing games, they can go find the one-shot person. So I was doing that. So really for me, what I was doing is I was running games in the evenings, and then during the day, I was actually painting minis. Because it was one of those things where Mark Muir had a campaign coming up, and all the players were going to be like forms of dragons, and they were like, oh, we didn't get the dragon minis because there was this whole thing. We got a letter. The castle that we were supposed to go to had been seized by the government.
Oh no.
So they had to like quickly, like within a week, find another castle. So it was just one of those things. I was painting all these dragon minis up for the campaign that was coming the next week, basically. It was a very interesting experience for the first one, but this time I'm very curious to see how it goes. You know, running, I think it's like 3 or 4 hour sessions, and you take a break, like at lunch, and then you come back together and like let them level up and everything like that, and you pick back up from where you started. Yeah. So.
Oh man, that is a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely a vacation for the players, but boy, howdy, are the people running the games doing their work.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean that's one thing that I've thought about this for a while because they do get these absolutely incredible DMs to do that. Like that
Mhm.
is like you're going somewhere really nice
Yeah.
for work.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong, the location is stunning and the food was pretty good and the get-togethers were fun. But you're part of the immersive experience. So you want to make sure
Mhm.
you're creating this for your players.
Mhm. And you said that one of the reasons you're working on Koshmar is because you're running it for your home game, but also because you're going to be running it there.
Yeah.
Um, has this had is this had you like expand what you had already established about Koshmar,
Oh,
or?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, Koshmar was sort of when doing it for Black Die Society, it was sort of a watercolor painting.
Mhm.
Um, like there were concepts
Yeah.
for it. But in terms of fully fleshed out and highly detailed, like what I'm starting to do now, no. Now it's like, okay, let's sit down and let's really create this world, this setting, and elements of a campaign to get it up and running. And the interesting thing is after Black Die Society came to a close, I was approached by a few people. It's like, hey, so about Koshmar, you're gonna like release that into the wild for us to be able to run games there as well. Um, so I'm kicking that concept around. We shall see. But I was like, I really do want to give it its time and dedication and run a couple campaigns there because
Yeah.
it's a world of nightmares and there's some really cool things you can do with that.
That's not the sentence during this the show that I expected to have the smile during. It's a world of nightmares.
It's a world of nightmares.
I love it. Well,
There's
and
no.
one of the things that I think is really cool about Koshmar is knowing that it's part of the Moonshade Isles. It is an island, and I don't think there's like an island dread domain. There's not a dread domain surrounded by water, which to me
Yeah.
is more terrifying. Because it's
You
like,
can't get off the boat.
yeah, well, it's not just, it's like, okay, but that's like that's not like the ocean. That's the dread domain ocean. What the heck is out there?
Yeah. Yeah. That's just it. I mean, we had fun with one of the episodes where Fen had Nepenthe and Nepenthe was just running its mouth. And Voronika's like, I have this lake back there. There are things that could take care of it. If you want, just saying it's very deep.
So wait, so in that regard though, that would mean that some terrible dread domain creature gets a hold in the pen, and then just say a couple hundred years later decided to give it someone. That is like the nightmare version of the Arthurian
The Lady in the
legend.
Lake. Yeah, quite. No, I mean, there's definitely story elements that I'm pulling from to add into Koshmar.
Mm-hmm.
Again, because she works off of dreams. She's Circle of Dreams, but when she became a Dark Lord, it became Circle of Nightmares.
I still love
Yeah.
that.
And part of Nika's lore is that, as a Dread Lord, Dark Lord, she's able to actually, because the whole thing is like, well, how is it she's able to go to these different places? And basically it's like, as long as people dream, she can travel. It's
Mm-hmm.
not her actual self, like her actual self will still stay in Koshmar, but sort of this avatar-like shadow element of herself will travel through people's dreams and manifest herself using the strength of the dreams,
God,
which is why she's able to show up in different places.
that's terrifying too. Like a dread or again, I said dread lord too, dark lord that can just like, hey, you know what? I don't really got to stick around here. Like I will go over here and mess with these people.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's also tying into the fact she's fresh and she is newer, and she's also got this streak of like, yeah, you think so. So it's sort of like she's the rebellious one. We'll see what the dark powers think of her. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm just now imagining Nika in like her like rebel punk phase of like the other dark lords. I mean, she's like, you guys aren't cool.
I mean, she's already she's like Aslan and Strahd. She's like, you're just a bunch of old men. Like,
yeah, nah, they are.
Yeah.
Oh, Strahd.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun fleshing out her lore more, Koshmar's lore more. That's just fun to say. And just doing things like that and kind of giving this more shape. And it's definitely, because it is mine and it's technically in canon because it's appeared in Black Die Society
Yeah.
like that. It's like, it's truly my domain to do as I please. and kind of
That's
give it
pretty
its
cool.
little, yeah. Um, the thing is like when Nika's out traveling, her stat block does shift. She is not as full Dark Lord because she
Yeah.
doesn't have her layer and stuff like that to work with. But she still has some tricks up her sleeves.
For
So
sure.
yeah. Yeah.
So without, obviously spoiling anything for anyone who might be watching this who ends up at your table, like are you planning on them seeing other aspects of Koshmar, or are they going to see some things that they might recognize from Black Dice Society?
Both. Definitely
Mm.
both. They're going to be seeing some new elements, definitely more of the denizens, because there were a couple of NPCs who were brought in by B Dave, but they're also more connected to other players. So they're kind of going to be in the periphery, not necessarily go
Okay.
to bring out news, just out of respect to other players and their backstories. This is going to focus mostly on Nika. So you'll be meeting different creatures and characters and people. And, people forget like she basically became who she was is because she took Zybilna's power and made Prismeer fall.
Yeah.
So there's this intertwining of bits of Prismeer and Koshmar. That's basically her torture.
Oh.
Her torture is that Koshmar is not truly hers. She's always wanted Koshmar to be truly hers.
Oh, dang, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So for her, she still has elements of Zybilna she has to battle. Like that is her torture. She says Koshmar is hers. She is Koshmar. But you see
Yeah.
bits of Zybilna pop up every so often. So
Yeah.
that's also going to be threaded through the land itself.
So sorry for the laugh there. It was because just I suddenly had a quick memory of Champions of Lore when we were talking about Zybilna and who she is and everything like that. And I immediately just had in my head, I'm just like, well, I mean, if she's got Zybilna's power, I feel like Gratz might get a wrong number at some point and show up and just like, hey, wait a minute, you look different.
And that's just it. She's got this unique tie to a pretty powerful entity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's definitely unique in her creation. But yeah, so it should be fun to kind of reveal more about what's been driving Nika and everything like that. And she's fun because she definitely looks, and it's even in Idle Champions how they set her up. And I love the fact that they had like the puppet and everything like that. She definitely works more of like less like I'm going to make your lives miserable. It's more like how can you make things better for me until you're of no more use for me anymore. Is how she functions. And she'll use whatever information she can get, whether it's like, popping into their dreams or, exposing them to their greater fears and things like that. So that's how she kind of gets through.
Okay. Well, this is actually the last question that I've got on this, but does Nika have a goal with her dread domain?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. She's got a goal. She has a plan. She has a want. And quite frankly, that's why it's going to be the premises of when people come to Koshmar. Because currently, right now in lore, she has locked Koshmar off. Like she has closed the doors. She has said, no one's coming back. She it's not that she banished Desmond, but she realized that Desmond's fixation on continuing to come back to Koshmar wasn't good for him. Because she still has a love for him. But if she kept the doors of Koshmar open, it would just mean he'd keep coming back. Yeah. And it wouldn't do him any good. So she closed off Koshmar completely. And then Koshmar's time is also very different. It's accelerated. Like they might be gone for what feels like a week and it's been 50 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So she's had a lot of time at this point to kind of keep building Koshmar and regroup and thinking about what she does. And in this time of sort of sitting and stewing, she's realized what it is she needs to do or hopes to do. And that's going to trigger her opening the gates again and seeing what she can have done.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sad that I won't be playing D&D with you in a castle because that sounds pretty dang cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'd encourage it, but I got word that my table sold out. So.
Yeah, that's pretty freaking awesome.
Oh my God, that was such a cool thing to find. I was just like literally scrolling through Instagram and I terrified all three cats. I went, ah! And I saw the sold out button that they put on your image. And I was just like, yay!
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh wait,
I mean, it's a really good group of people. And I was like, my table's not going to sell out. And I was like, my table sold out.
That actually does remind me because my wife and I were talking about it when I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw that post as well. There was a picture of you from what I assume was the last D&D in a castle, and you had a very specific outfit on.
Yeah.
What was up with that?
That was because I was running BB's place. So each night I kind of dressed in like a 1920s-esque garb.
Oh, okay, okay.
So yeah, so one night I dressed kind of like Evie, who's just the, the quick talker. She's at the receptionist and she's just gonna talk to you, talk to you, talk to you, and she's just gonna like throw all this information at you and take some away and make you wonder what on earth just happened. So one night I was kind of dressed up as Evie, and then the last night I dressed up as BB. So that was a fun one to wear.
Oh my
But that
gosh.
particular photo, that is my dressing up like Sebastian the bouncer, who's just this half orc, take it as it comes type of individual. So it's like, yeah, he totally would have the fedora and the pinstripes and the suspenders. And
yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah. And I'm going to
Okay.
be dressing in cosplay for the castle. You'll get to sit at a table with Nika. Nika will be.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. First one's going to be Nika as bride form, and then ghost form, and then Dark Lord.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
Yeah. Not necessarily that she's going to be in those forms, but just how she looks.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Well, we're running out of time here because we got to get out for the next show coming up. Vee, thank you so much for taking the time and talk with me today, and also for Rory for being good in the back.
Oh, and Hemi just came back. So hold on.
Hey, all the cats.
See, proof they're two separate cats.
Looks so grumpy.
Not feeling well.
Oh, poor kitty. Well, Vee, if people wanted to find you and what you do on the interwebs, where could they do so?
You can find me pretty much on, we've had the fun of finding all the socials. So I try and keep it as Vee Mus'e. It might be V_Muse. It might be Vee Mus'e smooshed together. Things like that. So basically just look for Vee Mus'e. And it's me because there's the apostrophe before the E.
There you go. There you go.
So that's how you can find me. But yeah, that's probably the best thing to do. And then of course, tune in tomorrow because Laura and I are gonna be painting things on Paint Sled.
Yeah.
Can't wait for that one. We're painting a Spelljammer Dahani.
Ooh. Oh, that's gonna be cool.
That looks so good.
Well, be sure to find Vee in all of those awesome places. And again, thank you so much for talking with me today. That is gonna do it for this week's episode of Idle Insight. So until next week, take care of yourself.
Bye-bye.